Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and this is the only G.I. Joe podcast where we watch every single episode of G.I. Joe, a real American hero, in sequential order and comment on it mystery science style. I am very happy to be sitting here this week. I'm in a lovely palatial estate in the
yes, palatial.
The hills of Hollywood with a friend of mine from Golden Apple Comics. He's a big time comic book collector out here.
You can go as far as calling me a geek. I embrace that.
You embrace that, and I know Rob from coming into Golden Apple, and he's a connoisseur of fine back issues, is how I would describe it.
I like to do the dumpster diving as well, though, not just fine back issues.
Well, I like that. I like that about you. And so we've struck up a friendship. I think he's a wonderful guy. And what's really great is that you guys actually may know who I'm talking about, because I didn't. When we first met, I didn't. I was just like, oh, hey, nice guy.
Yeah,
and then eventually one day I was told, oh, no, Rob was the winner of the first season of Amazing Race back in 2001. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome lawyer and global adventurer,
traveler, right?
Rob Frisbee. Rob, welcome to Joe on Joe.
It's great to be here. It's nice to see you outside of the confines of the store, of course, and to be talking about the Amazing Race 18 years after I did it.
That was 18. Yeah, that's crazy.
It almost was. They just finished their 30th season, which it's unbelievable to me. They did the first one.
It's so nutty. So let's circle back and let's start with you. So you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
Were you a lawyer when you did the Amazing Race?
I was 4 years out of law school when it happened. I had kind of gone straight through high school, college, law school, sports books, never really had a break, never traveled. Had been at a big law firm in town, L.A., for 4 years.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Minneapolis.
Originally,
yeah. Then sports took me to Arizona for college, and then law school took me to Boston.
What sport did you play?
Baseball.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I can see that now.
Yeah. I mean, I was carrying 30 more pounds back then.
That's all right. Well, I took on that 30.
Yeah, I see. Somebody found it. Somebody had to find it, right? But no, so I had been all over the States, but I had never really traveled abroad. And it had just been work my entire life. So by the time I was 25, the first few years at a law firm, you're learning the gig by working 16, 18-hour days.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, this opportunity came along. And, you think about it, but it kind of came from a way that we didn't really have a choice. So my buddy that I did it with, if you're not familiar with the show, it's teams of two racing around the world in a scavenger hunt type format.
Right.
A team is eliminated each leg. The last team to arrive at a pit stop is eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't get into too much of the format, but this was back in 2001, right after Big Brother had been a huge hit for CBS.
Yeah.
So they decided that they were going to put their chips in on some more reality television and designed other shows, Amazing Race. I think there were a couple others at the time. Anyhow, so my buddy Brennan, who I did it with, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. But says hello to everybody.
Well, hopefully, my hope is Brennan hears this interview and just sits at home and goes like, "Oh, I wish I could have been there," and then he'll be like, "I need to get back on an episode."
Well, he's going to have to. If I'm going to trash talk him, he'll have to come on. and trash talk me. So.
Is he a comic guy like you, like into pop culture stuff?
The real funny thing is he's into pop culture, but he's a huge Star Wars guy.
Oh, we can talk Star Wars all day.
He has an entire room devoted to, I'm talking the high-end old action figures and stuff. I mean, the stuff that, I don't know the terminology, that are either, pinned or not pinned because they've come off the wall or been hung on the wall. Wow. He knows all that stuff.
Okay, so thanks for listening to Joe and Joe. We're going to wrap this episode up, and we're going to go over to Brennan's house and look at his
Star Wars exactly. Stuff. We would be there anyhow, right? No, but long story short, so he was dating a girl at the time that worked at CBS in casting. So it's not like we tried out for the show. She said, "Hey, my boss, Les Moonves, wants me to get a couple guys on tape, baseline normal guys, boring guys, against which to judge all the other craziness." Okay. So just as a favor to his girlfriend at the time, we did an audition tape for The Amazing Race. Both of us lawyers, not thinking we're going to take the time to do it.
Right.
Then something on the tape clicked. They liked it. We got to the next round, and a month later, we're in South Africa doing the race. So it happened just like that.
So it happened because you were helping out a friend.
It happened because we were helping out a friend.
And most likely, if let's say that's season 2, you're not getting in because they vanilla couple of plain dudes.
Exactly.
that's not what they're looking for in reality shows.
Well,
they're looking for the story of the people.
It's not. And if you know Brennan, the reason we did so well is because he was also an ex-jock. So we kind of just looked at it like a game. We just went out there and played it. We didn't fight. We didn't bicker. But that doesn't make good television.
How
right?
long have you been friends with Brennan?
I met Brennan when I came out here after law school, so since '98.
Okay.
So we met at the firm we were both working at before
cool.
we did the race. So that's how we struck up our friendship. But yeah, he remains more involved in it than I do. He does a lot of charity work with Amazing Race and with Phil Kogan.
Awesome.
Does that kind of stuff. And he would absolutely love to go back and do it again. Mm-hmm. I'm married now, so I'm not sure the wife would let me off, But the funny thing is they've done all-star reunion shows.
Yeah.
And Brennan's always clamored, let's go, let's get him on there. So finally, we started contacting him every time, like, hey, we won the first season. You'd think there might be some cachet to putting us back on to do this again.
Yeah.
Finally, the producer looks at it, he's like, guys, you're just too boring and too good. We can't. We're not putting you on this thing. Because the backstory to it is, for the first 3 seasons, Guy teams won. The show was much more oriented toward climbing a glacier or getting up the Great Wall of China faster than the other team. And they realized it was skewed and not making for good television because just, by physiology, the guys were getting out ahead in the race.
Yeah.
So what they've done in subsequent seasons is, I think, a great thing. They've made it much more a social challenge, and you have to navigate a marketplace somewhere to find a clue as opposed to climb a glacier. So it really evens out the playing field for teams.
I'm not much of a reality show guy. I've actually just I'm not a fan of the shows at all. Yet, and I'm not saying this because I know you, your show, the show you were on was always heralded as, yeah, but that's not like those shows. Like everyone that I know, because I do know some people that watch. Actually, my family watched your first season.
Oh, that's
I remember
great.
that. Yeah, they've always said, and people have always said, no. Amazing Race is actually, it's about real people, but it's actually a really good show with real drama, and it's not tomfoolery. It's not slamming 10 people in a house and looking what drama is. It's human beings accomplishing things and moving on to the next goal. It's like a human board game.
Well, not only that, but it exposes you not only as the racer, but also the viewer to other cultures. I mean, you're watching us have to, not be the ugly American in a place like India or whatever. And it's the one thing that the show taught me was people are nice. If you ask for help, if you approach in a respectful manner, it doesn't hurt that you have a camera crew behind you, but people will help you. Yeah. And that was one of the greatest learning experiences, I think, of the whole thing.
Let's talk about that. It's one thing I wanted to go over with you. So I was on Wiki.
Yeah.
And I was checking out the rundown of your season. And so you hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8 or 9 if you include the US countries. So I'm going to hit you with this country, and if you can do this is off the on the spot. Hit me with one good memory of each of these countries. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's try it.
Okay, so you're in the hot seat.
I'm in the hot seat.
So started in U.S. So from the U.S. you went to South Africa.
Yeah.
Tell me about South Africa.
Zambezi Falls, one of the biggest waterfalls in the world, is there, and a lot of that leg of the race was conducted in villages right alongside that. So. From South Africa, just the scenery. Yeah.
It then says that you went to Zambia.
Zambia,
are those?
I would consider those a similar leg because we did it at the same leg of the race. Okay. So that's where we landed in South Africa, went to Zambia, which is where the falls are, did that. So that's kind of all the first couple iterations and shows.
So just beautiful.
The wilderness beauty.
Had you ever seen anything like that?
I had never seen anything like that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I grew up in beautiful places in the United States, but never had traveled or seen anything like that.
From Zambia, you went to France.
Yeah. France, the memory, I think, is just culture. You always hear about what Europe's like, but a lot of the stuff we did in France, we had to interact with people there. So it was the culture of France is what I remember the most.
From France, you went to Tunisia.
I wish Brennan was here for this one because we visited the site, and I forget the name of it, where Tatooine.
I was going to ask you about that. As soon as I see Tunisia, I go, that's where they filmed Star Wars.
So I'm trying to get Brennan to focus on running a race here and getting out ahead. He's like, dude, this is Tatooine.
And this would have been 2000, 2001. That's right after they were still filming some of the prequels.
Well, yeah.
So that was an active site at times.
That was an act. The other interesting thing about Tunisia was this was pre 9/11.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
And that was an Arabic country. So, I mean, you wouldn't see the race going there, I think, in the years after that. Yeah.
So after Tunisia and you left Tatooine, you went over to Italy.
Italy, I remember, the best memory from Italy was this incredibly hot pit stop girl. so I'll go off track a little bit.
Working for the company or a native of Italy.
Here's the thing. A, I doubt my wife will ever listen to this. B, honey, if you do, I'm sorry.
She's not a massive G.I. Joe fan. What?
So what they would do at each pit stop, Phil Kogan, the host, stands on a mat and waits for the teams to arrive.
Okay.
But he has a guest from each country that embodies the spirit of that country waiting there with him. So I guess the spirit of Italy is just incredibly hot women. I think she had just won the local beauty pageant or something like that. So she was there greeting. So the funny thing is when you watch that episode, whenever guy teams arrive, they're just Phil's like asking them like how'd the leg go? You know, you're in third place, you're in fourth place. The guys are just all like,
looks like the leg's really good on her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
well, listen, Italian women are beautiful.
That's my endearing memory of Italy. And
that's hilarious.
And Brennan would remember her name. He has the most amazing memory with the race stuff. It's crazy.
After leaving Italy, you went over to India.
India was a tough one. It's going to sound a little weird to say, but the endearing memory, maybe endearing is the wrong word, enduring memory is the poverty. It was really, really tough to be over there playing a game trying to win $1 million and looking out your cab or whatever and seeing starving children.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanted to stop and take the time to help. You couldn't. And I'd never seen anything like that in my life. So of all the memories from the race, that one sticks with me the most.
Wow.
Because I'd gotten to 25, 26 years old. I had a good family. I was raised well. I never had to worry about money. I never knew what hunger looked like. And this was really the first time in my life I saw that in different parts of the world. So it really did change me.
Wow. What city in India?
We were in Mumbai, Delhi.
Mumbai,
yeah.
okay.
And then we went to Agra, which was, speaking of seeing, amazing things, just going all over.
Yeah, it's just everything's just old.
Yeah.
And you see things that just have outlived spans of centuries and generations and stuff. And
the world's a bigger place than a law school classroom in a law firm.
Yeah.
I learned that pretty quick.
So after fleeing the poverty of India, you went to Thailand.
Now, Thailand was just, again, it's much like we were talking about earlier, just the wild nature and beauty of it. What I loved about Thailand was it was almost a entirely physical leg of the race. So we weren't, crowded in an Indian marketplace trying to navigate this or that. We were out on the water, free diving to find clues.
Oh, wow.
We were staying on the beach doing things like that. The enduring memory from Thailand, and this is kind of piercing the fourth wall a little bit, is pit stops are normally 12 hours. That's a pit stop is the time at the race where no game is played. You're not allowed to be moving forward. You're just all at the same space until you move on to the next leg of the race. Now, you're not all there at the same time because some teams might be more than 12 hours behind, but you check in, you have to wait 12 hours and go.
Okay.
Sometimes there would be production issues, like production was having trouble getting their license in the next country or something like that. So they would delay the pit stop an extra 24 hours. So we had an extra 48 hours at that pit stop in the beach in Thailand where the game was suspended. We all maintained a white flag on a racetrack when everybody's driving.
You maintain your lead.
You maintain your lead in position, but we got to hang out with everybody.
Cool.
And whereas you're normally running around not seeing the other teams, hopefully because you want to be ahead of them.
Yeah, and at that point you've lost at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6
I
teams.
think there were, but after Thailand ended, I think there were only 4 teams left.
Yeah.
And again, Brennan's the expert on that. But
yeah.
For the last 2 legs, I know there were only 3 teams, obviously. So.
That's kind of neat. So it's like a little mini vacation with these
little
people
mini
who have been
vacation.
through the same. You don't know them, but they've been through the same stuff you've just been through, so you have a common bond.
Correct. And back then, we got to remember, we did the first season of this, so sometimes production didn't know what they were doing. There were times we arrived in countries before the production team got their setup and got the clue set up.
Really?
Because we found a better flight than they did.
Oh, wow.
So it took us 40 days to film it. Now I think they have it down to it's slick. I mean, if you watch the show now as opposed to the first season, it's just very slickly edited and produced.
Yeah.
Still a great show, but there was something about that rawness, I think, of the first time that makes watching the first season, if you haven't seen it and are a fan of the show now, go back and watch it.
And
it's
you can
really
find it.
very
You can
different.
find it on DVD.
You can find it on
is
DVD.
Streaming on like CBS because it's a CBS show.
It's got to be available on CBS. I haven't looked. I have the DVD. So
CBC because they have the CBS All Access.
it's probably all access.
Yeah. So after leaving Thailand, you went to China.
Yeah.
shocking that they would allow that in communist China.
Well, what's really interesting about it, I don't know the politics of how we got in there.
Yeah.
But that was the reason for the 2-day pit delay in Thailand. We were going to China next, and it was right at the time, and I'm probably going to get the terminology wrong, there was a U.S. spy plane that crashed. Right.
Yes.
So we were at the airport in
that.
Thailand about to go to China through various connecting flights or whatever it might be. And that news is on international CNN about the U.S. spy plane going. All of a sudden, there's a 2-day delay.
Right. And here's this group of TV show people
going into China.
Doing all this. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
It's a good thing like the movie Argo hadn't come out yet.
Exactly. So, but apparently it all got worked out because to China we went, and that was a great experience. That was the infamous eating challenge.
Okay.
So, how we like to differentiate the race a little bit, like you said earlier, is it's not, putting people in these grotesque situations or all in a house or eating this horrible stuff. But they do it every now and then.
Sure.
Luckily, the way the show breaks down is that at those challenges, you and your buddy can kind of decide who can do it. Mm-hmm. You have to decide before you know exactly what you're doing. But considering that they sent us to an open-air Chinese marketplace with a bunch of open food being cooked that we'd never seen, we figured it was the eating challenge.
Yeah.
So Brennan took that one on. He's got an iron stomach, not me so much. So I got to sit back and laugh at him watching, eating chicken feet and beetle larvae.
Yeah. And was the challenge just to not vomit or just to eat it?
The challenge was to... A, not vomit, B, eat a lot of it. They had you eat a lot of things. The other part of the challenge was you had to shop for your own ingredients.
Oh.
So they gave you the list in Chinese. Oh. And I'm not even sure if alphabet is the right term, but in the symbols.
Yeah, right.
So that was one of the fun parts of it when we were shopping for the food that Brennan was going to have to eat. A, we enlisted the help of some Chinese people, like I said, very friendly, and took us around the market and found us the food. And then watching it get cooked for him, watch the stomach roll was just the next best part.
So as you're going on this adventure, do you have each team has one camera with them, or how many cameras?
There is
with
a
you?
Camera guy and a sound guy with you.
That's it.
And at least when we did it, and I don't know if it's set up that way, you are responsible for them. In the meaning that if you are looking for a flight from China to Thailand as part of a challenge, you got to find four seats on that flight. Now you're not paying for it. You have a producer's credit card.
Sure.
But back then, this is a fun one to talk about because it's interesting if you think about it. So back then, once you booked a flight, that was it. If somebody else found a better flight, you couldn't switch your flight.
That was the rule of the game?
That was the rule of the game.
Okay.
So imagine, in New York, you open up your first clue. Get yourself to South Africa.
Yeah.
This is you're not allowed to have cell phones, any of that.
Right.
So you rush to the airport, and now you're just scrambling to find the best flight. They found that it made the game a little bit too difficult and that teams would get too far out ahead because of the difference in flights. Mm-hmm. So now you're allowed to book multiple flights and take the best one.
Oh, okay.
Brennan came up with the term. He refers to it as bunching. It used to be in the early seasons that teams would get out to big leads because of flights. Mm-hmm. So now they'll pick flights that really only have one option. Like there might only be a flight every 2 days from Thailand to China, by example. So even if you beat other teams by 14 hours in the challenges in Thailand, you're all still going to be on the same flight.
Got it.
And it then evens out the leg for the next episode. Because by the time of the end of the first season, we were 24 hours out in the lead. We and one other team.
That's crazy.
And now you have all the teams always are racing right to the end.
And then after you left China, you came back to the U.S.
Back to the U.S.
What to L.A. or New York?
It finished in New York, Flushing Meadows, with where the...
Where did it start? Did it start in...
It started in New York.
In New York?
Times Square, yeah. Where that fountain is.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it. I should know the name of it. Any Joe fans out there know the name of the fountain?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
In Flushing Meadows?
No, that was where it ended. It ended in Flushing Meadows with the globe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was, all told, I believe, 41 days, 13 episodes after they edited it down. We always joke that if enough time passes, we would like all that footage.
Yeah.
There's hours and days of footage.
What was your official, did they have an official time for you? Removing all the 24 hours of downtime.
Like how long it took?
Yeah, like when the clock was on for you.
It didn't.
What was your race time?
There was no race time. It's not like NASCAR or anything like that. It's just where you finish in each leg of the race.
Okay.
So there's no clock on you, but if you're the last team to arrive at the pit stop, you're eliminated.
That's it. So even if you led all the way, again, I've never seen the show.
Yeah.
If you lead everything, but then like the sixth one, you end up being last because whatever reason.
Yeah,
you're out?
We won. You're out. I mean, we
Whoa.
won. I think we came in first place 4 or 5 out of the 11 or 13 legs that were elimination legs. And still, when we finished, I think 7th when there were 8 teams at one point. So then we had to climb back up. So yeah, that's the beauty of the show, is that you're at risk every leg.
Okay.
And by doing what they do now, bunching, where you can't get out to a big lead, everybody's at risk every episode, which makes for good viewing.
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool, man.
Yeah.
So you touched on it real briefly, and we can't go further without dealing with this. So the show premiered on September 6th, 2001.
Yeah.
We all know what happened, 5 days later. For you, you're living were you back in LA at that point?
Yeah, we were back in LA.
So you're back in LA. You probably were live on top of the world. You were probably flying high, feeling great.
Flying high, feeling great, with a caveat, though, that we weren't allowed to tell anybody that we had won.
That you had won, right, because that was just the first episode.
So this goes back to CBS originally intended it to be a summer show like they had done with Big Brother. Mm-hmm. But we ran in March and April of 2001. So we won in April of 2001. The show didn't air until September, because what happened, I guess CBS started seeing the footage and said, oh, we really have something here. We're going to put this in a fall time slot. We think this can carry a fall time slot. And then, of course, we premiere on the 5th, and then...
Yeah, and so did you have a premiere watch party?
We had a huge premiere watch party. I got a big album of pictures I can show you.
Mm-hmm.
Brett and I were living together at the time. We were roommates, so we had a nice place in West Hollywood. It was, had a great, huge party for it. And yeah, at that point, we were on top of the world. Still not being able to tell anybody that we had won.
Right.
So our intention was we were just going to watch the season, and then everybody finds out at the end. And that's still what happened. But 9/11 came
So
along.
9/11 happens.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're going to throw a blanket on this conversation. It affected everybody,
of course,
in various ways. And both personal, you may have known some people, professional. Obviously, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But let's zero in specifically on that feeling for you as someone who, wow, I just debuted on a national TV show. I don't know if the ratings were great or whatever, but it was, plus you won, so you're I'm going to look great throughout this thing. This is going to be amazing. What is that?
Yeah.
What happens to you in that moment after the shock of the actual, after the shock that everyone felt?
Yeah.
What was the personal feeling?
Well, and I'm going to reiterate your blanket statement that normally I'd spend 10 minutes talking about how none of this matters in the face of that.
Of course, yeah.
But personally, in terms of the race, what happened was, well, who wants to watch a documentary or a race about traveling when planes have just crashed into the United States of America?
Yeah.
But what happened was they canceled the second episode on the 12th.
Okay.
They started re-airing it again the week after. They had a gap week made anyhow. So long story short, it didn't end up messing with the time of the show and when it was going to end, the 13 episodes. What it did mess with was the ratings. It premiered really strong, and then obviously something like 9/11 happens. A, people aren't just going to be watching TV, and B, they're not going to watch
people are watching the news.
This theme of a show.
Yeah.
So, of course, there was a little sadness, we really thought we were going to have the next Survivor or Big Brother huge hit. And the show over the years has become that. It just wasn't the first season. It didn't get the numbers that it thought. I don't think that either of us ever looked at it as something that was going to launch us to fame. Winning that little chunk of money was nice and paying off law school. Looking back now, the best memory of it is just having never traveled and having, the world's greatest round-the-world trip home videoed for free by CBS.
Yeah.
But at the time, everybody was very united, and I think we actually worked with CBS to, on the scheduling of it and when to air and how to get around the 9/11 issue. But there's no getting around it.
No.
It probably cut in half the popularity of the show at the time.
Did they have you doing press and junkets and were you on Good Morning America? Or not, I guess it wouldn't be Good Morning America, whatever the CBS morning show.
Not until it was over.
Yeah.
When the final episode was going to air, they flew the final 3 teams out to New York, and we did a whole bunch of press junkets. Just a ton of shows, a lot of fun, and of course we all watched the final episode together.
Yeah.
And that was when I had pretty much fibbed to my parents and told them that we didn't win.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my dad is such a pompous ass. He's like,
you wouldn't trust them.
My dad's like an ex-jock too. He's like, hey, of course my boy won.
Come on.
So
have you seen his fastball? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So while the show's airing, he's basically walking around informing everybody that we've won, which he couldn't have known. He was just being braggadocious, right? But of course, here's me having signed an NDA with $1 million on the line. Will you shut up? So I finally kind of fibbed a little bit and said, you know what? We did well. You're going to enjoy it all the way to the end, but and I stopped at that. So when we actually did win, it was tears in mom's eyes, the whole thing. It was very emotional. It really was.
That's great. I was on a game show once and signed an NDA, and we left, and I immediately got on the phone and called my mom and said, I won $25,000.
NDA be damned. Here we go.
Come at me, Oprah.
Exactly.
Come at me.
Exactly. You know what? I don't get all that many occasions to really talk about the race in depth anymore. It's nice to be able to do it.
That's cool, man. Well, I appreciate you opening up. This is fascinating to me. So you're basically like a real life global adventurer, just like our friends at G.I. Joe.
It's just like our friends at G.I. Joe.
So we'll touch on your comic love and stuff throughout the course as we watch the episode. But before we get going, what was your experience with G.I. Joe? Did you watch it as a kid, the cartoon? Did you read the comic book? Like what was that all about?
I have old beat up copies of the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch the show. My enduring memory from the show is what's the knowing is half the battle.
Absolutely.
Comes at the end. I was not obviously anywhere near the level of a G.I. Joe fan that you are. I was much more in the superhero realm. I was reading X-Men. I was reading Avengers. When you go get them off the spinner rack.
Right. Well, what's great. One of the reasons I connected with G.I. Joe is that they're essentially superheroes.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've each got their own unique power set.
Right.
They're very similar like Legion. They've each got their own unique power set. They try not to duplicate powers, quote unquote. They all have their own unique costume. It's like a series of superheroes, but with lasers.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things, I think there was a seminal issue in G.I. Joe. It was a silent issue.
Oh, yeah.
So
21.
Yeah. So when I really got into comic books and beyond just being a kid enjoying the stories and everything and kind of studying the art form a little bit because I did become such a fan, I discovered that book and thought it was an amazing thing.
Yeah, it's such a great issue.
Yeah, it made you realize that thought bubbles were becoming a little too prevalent.
Yeah. Well, today we are watching an episode called Revenge of the Pharaohs.
All right.
And it is sort of stupid, sort of fun.
Well, I know
it's got a foot in cool, like a fun, good adventure, and then it's got a foot in silly, crazy.
I guess it's kind of like saying that Chris Claremont's X-Men was really good a lot of the time, but even when it was bad, you still had to read it?
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, I'm actually rereading a bunch of those Claremonts right now. And then you get to an episode, it's the episode right after Jean Grey just turned into the Phoenix. And everything's high drama. And then he sends them to Cassidy Keep over in Ireland, and they fight elves. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Or you'll get Kitty Pryde fighting the monster that came out of the cairn.
Yes.
The Nagar.
Yeah. Like, it's like such high drama and such great stuff. Oh, okay. It takes a little bit of the air out. So we're a little bit there.
But that's a long way of saying that I know that to the true fans like you, there were fluctuations in how good the show was. It was good, and then it was terrible, and then so on and so forth.
There's definitely good episodes of bad. I wouldn't say this is one of the bad ones, but this is, what's funny? This actually steals a little bit from the 1966 Batman show.
Ah, okay.
Strangely enough, and if you've seen this show, listeners, and you're a fan of Batman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We'll get to it when we hit it in the show. So Rob, if people wanted to find you online on Twitter, they can go to @RobFrisbee.
Yep.
Frisbee,
spelled just like the toy.
Exactly.
Try growing up with
any
that.
relation?
Try growing up.
Any
with
relation
it.
to the family?
Actually, there is. That's a story for another podcast.
Okay,
it would take a while.
All right, we'll get there. And on Instagram, you can find them @RobFrisbee29. As long as you're on the internet and doing all that stuff, why don't you follow me? I'm @JoeOnJoePod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com and let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. I love having fans on the show. I love doing remote episodes, and we'll have a good time. Or just let me know what you think of the show. If you're a fan and you love G.I. Joe, I love hearing from you guys. So, Rob, without any further ado, I'm so excited. We're going to watch Revenge of the Pharaohs. Are you ready?
Revenge of the Pharaohs. I am ready.
All right. Well, here we go. So this is for the Joe on Joe podcast. This is still a relatively new opening for us, because this is episode 2 of this third season, right?
Okay.
So all these are new because I've been staring at the same old intro for 60 episodes,
right?
And prior to that, it was the other intro for 30 or 40 episodes. So it's nice to see something fresh.
Okay.
And these were all the vehicles that were for sale during the like 88, 89, 90 years.
Okay.
So for me, that was when I was getting out of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these characters that have just cool designs and they're fun characters, but like for me, this podcast is a learning curve on it.
Right.
Like I'm going, oh, okay, that's who that guy was. Like I had that version of Cobra Commander, but all these dudes from Ambush to Salvo and all that.
So it's not the same opening. It's not the same opening as it was the first couple seasons.
No.
Okay.
Even the song's different. I don't know if you remember the traditional.
Yeah. You're
Real
right.
American.
Yeah.
So here we go. Revenge of the Pharaohs, written by Ted Peterson. And we open with Lady J. Of course, she's a new voice. Is not the traditional Lady J voice. They also give her a redesign from the previous. It's a whole different company. So basically, everyone's got a fresh design look.
Right.
But she specifically is a lot. She's got like a different color green on her outfit, and it's some of the detail was taken away.
Okay. So we're investigating Cobra activity in Egypt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this guy is...
Which I guess kind of makes sense, right? Cobras in Egypt? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, they asp. Yeah, very dangerous. And we got a bunch of night creepers and laser vipers breaking into this museum. Now, here's where we get into the Batman 66 connection, Rob.
Okay.
Do you remember the villain King Tut?
Vaguely.
Yeah, it was wonderful actor. Gosh, blanking on his name right now. But he was really
I can picture, yeah.
Yeah, and he wore
with the makeup.
Yeah, and he had the King Tut outfit. And he thought he was King Tut.
Yeah.
That's what happens in this show.
Okay.
The night creeper leader gets right here, hit on the head, and he thinks he's King Tut. He thinks he's this Pharaoh. Right here. Boom. Hit on the head. And he wakes up and he thinks that's the same plot as King Tut from Batman.
All right. Very good. So this was not Cobra's plan to turn him into King Tut.
No. They were here to steal this artifact, which is a straightforward plan. I can get on board with that. The guy with Lady J here, his name is Bullhorn. He is a intervention specialist. So he's a hostage negotiator. It's cool. Kind of cool, right? Like they would go into that level of like, hey,
detail. Like you need an interventionist.
Yeah. So here we go. It's a little bit like Moon Knight. Remember Moon Knight?
Yeah.
When he was a mercenary and he got trapped in the temple of
Khonshu.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, and he all of a sudden becomes Moon Knight. So it's a little bit of King Tut meets Moon Knight is what's going on.
We'll talk about it later.
Wait,
but yeah.
Wait, did you just see that?
No, what?
Bullhorn used his toy like mode. So he literally came with a toy Bullhorn. So he could be like, get off the ledge, don't jump, That's what he just did. He spoke into a little receiver and was like, come on out, guys.
You would think that hostage negotiation might be done on the phone, but you need a cool name.
You would think. Yeah, you would think. So the Cobras, they're getting away. They're getting away with what they came for. Lady J and Bullhorn were completely useless.
Okay, so they got the artifact.
But
where's the crazy Tut guy now? Did they leave him behind?
No, he went with them.
Okay.
Yeah, he went with them. Well, the artifact that they got was, I think they wanted the whole statue.
Right.
But he just took that helmet.
Okay.
So now we get Destro and Commander arguing with each other.
Wait, is he looking at himself in the mirror?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
That's what he's discovered. I have learned that I am the reincarnation of the lost Pharaoh, returned after 3,000 years to rule Egypt.
And that's the silly part of this episode. Now, the character stuff, like I love that Cobra Commander's so angry with him.
Yeah.
Because he botched the job.
That makes sense.
I love that. I love that Destro's like kind of defending him because he sees that we might be able to make some use of this.
Yeah.
All this is fantastic. So when you were growing up, what were you into comics then? Like when did you get into comics?
I was into comics from 5 or 6 years old. I mean, some of my first memories are walking down, the 6 blocks from the house to the spinner rack at the dime store. And I know that my dad was like creeping behind a couple blocks. This was my first freedom, was walking by myself to go pick up comics at the spinner rack.
Amazing.
My dad would give me $5 or $10, which at the time bought you some comic books. Sure. Now it buys you 1 or 2.
Yeah, right.
But 5, 6 years old, that I associate comic books with being on my own for the first time. It was so exciting that I got to walk to the store.
And that would have been an amazing era. That would have been like right at the cusp, right before like the Frank Miller, Simonson,
Yep.
John Byrne, all that early 80s amazing stuff that was happening over at Marvel and DC.
Yeah, and kudos to my parents for letting me read those relatively serious books.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
New
buying
Teen Titans,
Death of Phoenix,
Death of
buying it off
Phoenix.
the rack. This
Yeah.
was serious stuff, and they didn't filter it.
Yeah.
Let me read it, and I in a lot of ways, I learned my literacy through reading comics. And it's an important aspect of my career and life, and
Sure.
so it's comic books are very much entwined in my entire life.
So did you keep a massive collection, or what did that look like? Because now I see you now, and I see you go for very specific stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see you keep a very adult, well managed household here.
Yes. Part of being
my
married.
house is boxes on boxes of comics. What's your collection look like, at least today, and what was it like when you were coming up?
Briefly, and without taking away from the episode, I've got a 10 by 30 storage unit in Tucson, which is where my
okay.
parents have retired.
What's the exact address?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
What's
exactly.
the security
nope,
code?
Not giving it away. But I've got a good, 50 or 60,000 comics in storage.
Oh, you do?
there. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I keep some here around the house that the wife lets me keep for
Yeah.
so that it used to be comics everywhere. Now it's just in a few distinct spots where I can.
Congratulations! It's the rare man that I meet that has more comics than me.
Very good.
I'm around 38,000.
But I've also got a few years on you.
Yeah, but that's not at that rate.
Okay.
Oh yeah, good for you.
Thank you, man.
So
Thank you.
I like that. So you must have really comprehensive runs.
I know that I do, but at some point I'm going to have to catalog it.
That was my next question. Is it catalog?
It's not. We've talked about this. I got the comic the comic DB.
Right. Yeah.
But I haven't had. There's so many
We gotta go
hours
down
in the
there,
day.
right.
Newly married. I'm working. It's like the man hours involved in learning that database and then actually entering a 50,000 book collection.
I got an idea.
Okay.
This summer, and I'm serious about this. Let's me and you go down there for a weekend.
We could do that.
Let's me and you go down there for a weekend, and we knock it out.
Okay.
Are they alphanumeric right now, or are they rando?
I think the ones from childhood, because I was an anal retentive little kid, they're all bagged and boarded in great condition. I've checked them. But I think those ones are probably alphabetical. The ones that I've collected since I started recollecting again in 2004 or so are just as read. So that'll take some
Let's
work.
talk about this.
Yeah,
maybe
we will.
do like a weekend getaway. Bring the wives.
Yeah.
They can enjoy. Wait, Scott? Do you say Scottsdale?
No, Tucson.
Tucson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a little weekend in Tucson.
Yep.
And we'll be like, all right, we'll see you in a couple days.
Only us.
Okay.
Comic book vacation.
Done. Oh my God, that's amazing. So, back in the show, Cobra Commander is basically saying that the Pharaoh is now gonna. They're taking over. They want to take over Egypt.
Want me to negotiate?
Is that at the behest of the crazy Tut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because since he is the reincarnation of the Pharaoh, he then deserves to be the leader of Egypt.
So what?
I mean, it just makes sense.
Which Joe heroes are being featured in this episode?
So that's Captain Gridiron, who's a football playing G.I. Joe, if the name didn't spell it out for you.
That's it, Lady Jane. The city's empty.
What do we got here? So that's Salvo. His shirt says "The Right of Might." Earlier we saw, and it was the first, I believe it was the first appearance of the updated General Hawk. They gave him a, in my opinion, a terrible, terrible costume. His previous action figure, he wore a sweet brown bomber jacket.
Okay.
And he had a 45 pistol, and just was ready. Like, he was a general. You could see he's a leader. So we're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back. Today's Filecard features on the G.I. Joe self-propelled gun artilleryman, codenamed Thunder. He's the driver of the Slugger vehicle. His file name is Matthew Harris Breckenridge, and his primary military specialty is the artillery. Secondary specialty is the bandsman. He's literally a drummer. He's from Louisville, Kentucky. Thunder grew up next door to a foundry, a probable explanation of his fondness for loud noises. When asked his reasons for going artillery, his reply was simply, quote, "I want to hear them go bang." He would probably love Metalhead then. He has a passion for heavy metal rock and roll, peanut brittle, and cars with bad mufflers. Quote, "If you know where you are and you know where the enemy is, then artillery can be an exact science. But in the real world, artillery is half trigonometry and half blind luck. In other words, if you hit something, take the credit. If you miss, write it off as margin of error." Thunder's got a lot going for him. He was part of the 1984 releases, and the first thing that stands out is his figure, bright red hair. So he's just a bright shock of red hair on this man. The second thing is his color scheme. His color scheme is brown and green and black, which would come in with the stuff that we're doing now, the Slaughters Marauders. It would fit right in. But at the time, he was really the only guy rocking that look. And then he came with two accessories that were really, really cool. There was a monocular, which is like a binocular, but with only one lens in it. And that went around his neck. And then he had, I guess technically it's three, because he had both a headset that had radio antenna sticking up on the side and a darkened visor. He really had a lot going on. I never had him as a kid, and I always kind of wrote him off as someone who looked cool, but I never really remembered. Like I think I've called him heavy metal, and I know that I've messed his name up on this podcast. But when you get down to it, he's one of the first 20 Joes. He drove the Slugger, which was a sweet tank. That's the green camouflage one that just has like the one long cannon. It's got 6 wheels. He's good in my book. So Thunder, Matthew Harris Breckenridge, we salute you.
Did you like the G.I. Joe movies?
The live action ones?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. I got some problems with them, but yeah, I mean they're fun to watch, and there's some
Right.
cool stuff. And seeing Snake Eyes in live action is amazing.
I think I saw there were 2, right?
There were 2.
Okay.
Yeah. I like different things about both of them. I think both of them missed a bunch of opportunities, and the second one is strangely fun, but a piecework. It's just not a. There's no steady.
Isn't there
narrative?
There's like a Bruce Willis. Is he?
Yeah. He shows up as Joe Colton. He shows up as the guy that G.I. Joe was named after.
Okay.
So that's General Hawk, and he's wearing this weird body armor, like space. It looks like a life support system,
right.
Outfit. It's crazy, and it looks like what the action figure looked like. It's a terrible design.
Right.
He should have. So Hawk, and here's why I bring this up. Hawk started from, he was actually one of the original green shirt figures.
Okay.
He was just a regular Joe. And then in the kind of canon, they promoted him, and he became General Hawk. So now he ran the Joe team. So then they made him with the bomber jacket and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would think that if you're going to do another action figure for him, it would be even further up that chain. So maybe in a full general command outfit, right?
Right.
No, they put him in this space suit. It's terrible. Versus they did a Gung Ho. They did a Marine dress version of Gung Ho, who's the Marine, who's normally running around bare chested and barrel chested, and then you got this version of him that was a step up.
Well, who's the leader of Joe? So this will show my ignorance.
So that's General Hawk.
General Hawk.
He's the leader of G.I. Joe.
And he's the one in the space-looking outfit?
Yes.
Because I was going to say maybe he stole the leader's cookies or something, so they put him in the costume, but
no.
He made the call himself to look ridiculous.
No. He's the leader of G.I. Joe.
Okay.
So Lady J's just been, kidnapped. She's going to be, of course, because every Pharaoh... I feel like every Pharaoh story, like the Mummy and all that stuff, it's always about love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always you're my queen to be. By the way,
queen to be.
That's straight from Coming to America.
That's or Coming to America took it from this.
Yeah, exactly.
But why does he want a Joe chick? Why aren't there some hot evil Cobra chicks that he can choose from?
First of all, budget. They only have room for one female voice on this cartoon. Okay, so let's get real. That's the real world reason. Secondly, much more interesting to be enraptured with the enemy, right?
Fair enough.
See,
Cleopatra.
That's a little silly. It's just when it gets cartoony, it's just not appealing to me.
You got to roll with it. You got. I know you're like a hardcore fan, but I'm enjoying the silly little moments.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So that's and of course that's Destro in his Iron Grenadiers look.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be attacking this city. I love that he just yells to all these other vehicles
spread across the
desert. They got canopies down. They can't hear him. Maybe he's got a mic on him. I don't know.
Cab to cab communication.
Mm-hmm. That's a guy named Ambush. And
so Yo Joe's the battle cry?
Yeah, Yo Joe's the battle cry, exactly. So he's and I should be more well versed at this point in time on my hierarchical levels of military,
right?
But so he's Captain Gridiron.
Okay.
So he actually outranks a whole bunch of Joes.
Okay.
Even though he just joined the team,
Right.
But I don't think that's how it works. I think he may have been a captain in another branch, and they were like, "Come over here, and you'll still be a captain." Ambush, he's just kind of a regular new guy, and his specialty, of course, is ambushing.
Of course,
yeah. Captain Gridiron's specialty. That grenade he's throwing on this show, it is just a regular grenade, but the toy, it was a football.
The toy was a football.
It was a football
and a grenade.
It was a grenade that looked like a football.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, it makes sense, right? If the guy can chuck a football.
Hey, they made the William the Refrigerator Perry. He was, and you're from Minnesota, so you must have been down with the 85 Bears at some level.
I mean, they were enemies.
You were,
to the Vikings,
right. You're a
but I knew
Vikings
them,
fan, sure, yeah. So what'd you think of the Super Bowl this year?
Well, I couldn't get over the disappointment of my team getting blown up by Philadelphia in the conference championship. I mean, I really thought we had a chance after that miracle against New Orleans.
Yeah.
That's
you guys got destroyed.
Well, and don't forget, the Super Bowl was in Minnesota.
That's what I mean.
It could have been the first time in history that the team would have been playing in its home
you guys
stadium.
really choked.
And then, of course, I would have to figure out, do I shell out the dough to go up there and go to the Super Bowl? It's like, ugh.
Do you think you could have beaten
New England?
New England, yeah.
Who knows?
I'm glad Philly won because they beat them.
I
don't know if the Vikings could have beat
Yeah.
New England the way they did.
Look, I like Tom Brady. I like New England. Boston fans can be annoying sometimes.
Little bit.
So it's hard to root for New England.
A little bit. Yeah.
No offense to Boston fans out there.
Yeah.
Present company excluded.
I have trouble rooting for New England. Wow, they just ran over those tanks. Like the animation didn't even bother to like put a bump in the road.
Right.
It just flattened right.
Well,
over.
it's always funny when you're watching cartoons and you can tell like where there were budget or issues or whatever, because there'll be long pauses where the character doesn't move and they're just using the same animation cell or whatever.
Yeah. Or the other tell is you can see what the background is because it's painted or it's more static.
Right.
And then like, oh, I know that piece of rock is going to crumble because it's animated less, you know.
So when the silly moments bother you, is it because the earlier seasons or shows were a little bit like more realistic or darker?
I think so. Yeah, not that they were dark, but they just there was more like character truth.
Yeah.
There. That's what I think it is. There was more people like they acted more as real people would act, you know.
Well, I mean, it's not all that far off from the realm of the world we live in. You know, peacekeeping forces and terrorists running around.
Sure. Well, it's funny. That's one of the reasons why I've posited on this podcast a lot. Where I think that's one of the reasons for the decline in the popularity of G.I. Joe in recent years.
Yeah.
Because we've basically been at war for 16 years, and there are real people doing real stuff,
right?
And so it's not as exciting to kind of fetishize it.
And the world's a smaller place now, and that.
And these guys started getting less popular right around like the Gulf War.
Yep.
You know, when that started up in the early 90s, and that it kind of went down, and then it's harder to fetishize it when you know people that are in harm's way.
And you and I have talked about this. I think that also affects modern movies. I mean, you go to, and they're great. You know, Marvel's putting out great movies, but there's never a drop of blood.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Hey, listeners, I'm not sure if you've heard the news, but Joe and Joe has started a Patreon, and I'm inviting you along for the ride. Go to patreon.com/JoeandJoePod and check out my page. Right now, there are 2 opportunities for you to help support the show. You can choose to be a grunt or a viper. Grunts get access to all the Joe and Joe episodes and early access to new episodes as they're created. Vipers get all that and access to my all-new spin-off podcast, Joe and Joe Illustrated, where I will be breaking down every single issue of the G.I. Joe comic books, page by page, in the deepest dive you'll ever hear on G.I. Joe. So go to patreon.com/JoeandJoePod and see what's happening over at the Fort Wadsworth Motor Pool. We'll see you there. Got to get top G.I. Joe. Yeah, there's no blood, there's no but this, you know, listen, G.I. Joe championed that with the parachutes, you know, every plane that blew up, everyone got a parachute, you know, which is great. Yeah, and it's still fun to watch, and I love the epic scale of G.I. Joe, that and that's a little bit what misses in these seasons where they focus on a smaller team, because that's just what they were. Right. That's what they were pimping. That's what they were selling. So it's not as expansive. You know, you don't see as many. You don't see dreadnoughts at all. You know, like you don't see you don't see all the Joe team.
Right.
You just see the guys that were on sale that year. You know, like the fact that they have included Lady J here is shocking, and most likely because there weren't any female Joe figures for those couple of years. Like it just went to all dudes.
So over history of all the fans, like who is the greatest fan character? It's got to be Snake Eyes, right? Isn't that?
Yeah,
like
he's always
like the Darth Vader of
he's
Joe.
always the consensus. Like he's the Darth Vader. So whenever you ask that question, you kind of got to say, okay, Snake Eyes aside, because he's the best.
Is Snake Eyes an independent operative, or is he?
No,
he's a Joe.
No, he's a Joe. He's a commando.
Okay,
yeah, he's a commando. Depending on the origins that you get into, and he's not even on this season. He was actually rarely used on the cartoon.
I remember associating him when I would read G.I. Joe comics or whatever. Oh, he's kind of the Wolverine of this.
He's totally the Wolverine. Yeah. He's totally
take that for what it's worth. But
yeah, he was. And he was in the comic. He did operate a lot like a lone wolf too, but he was a commando. He was Army and all that stuff. But they kind of let him do his own thing.
And what has become of him now that there is a female Snake Eyes?
Well, he's dead.
He's dead.
They killed him off a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's weird. It snuck up on me as a fan. Like I was reading the comic, and all of a sudden they were like, "I'm like, really? You just killed Snake Eyes?"
There wasn't like a big epic 6-part story.
It was,
or anything?
but it wasn't. Like it was big, but it wasn't. Like it really took me by surprise that they actually killed him.
Okay.
And they scattered his ashes and everything. But now they've brought him back, and he's actually in the brain of the female.
Oh, okay.
They used. So do you remember you read the early comics? Do you remember Dr. Brainwave or
yes.
Dr. The brain? It was the Brainwave, not Dr. Mindbender, but Dr. Venom and the Brainwave scanner.
Yes.
So in one of the early episodes. In one of the early issues, which, by the way, you can listen to our dissection of it on our Patreon.
Okay.
On Joe Illustrated, check it out. One of the early episodes, issues, Snake Eyes got strapped up, and they downloaded his personality. That personality got rewritten over to the girl's head.
Oh, so it is Snake Eyes in a female body.
Yes.
Okay, that's creepy.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's enjoyable. It's selling well. It's selling out at all the stores. It's selling really well.
And the character's name is Dawn, or is it
Dawn? Yeah, like Dawn.
So her Chicago. Psyche and mind is gone, and
sort of.
Snake
She's
Eyes
like
now
struggling with it.
Okay.
Yeah, like they haven't gotten too much into it. Okay, exactly. I mean, they're getting into it of how she's struggling. The most recent one, as we record this, it was actually another silent issue, and it was her reliving the silent issue through Snake Eyes' mind while she went kung fu on a bunch of new dudes.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. So, Lady J and the King Tut Viper, they've been stranded. The Joes just kind of they didn't stop the dam from blowing up, but they've kind of stopped Cobra's plan from taking over the world.
Okay,
as things happen.
Yes,
it's kind of a win-win. It's a win-lose. Like sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But but his dream of being Pharaoh is completely shattered, and he's done.
Okay,
and now he's got a grudge against G.I. Joe. Well, congratulations.
Okay.
We thought you already had one.
Does he still think he's the Pharaoh and has just been foiled, or his mind came back?
His mind just randomly goes back. Yeah. Except you think he's going to kill Lady J.
Yeah.
No!
Don't shoot her.
He's got a little soft spot for her, and he gives her a little a rope to escape from these raging waters.
He does have a soft spot for her.
He really does.
Thanks, big guy.
And she crosses that rope like a champ.
Very easy to cross
like
100 feet with rope, apparently, yes.
So, Rob, we love to ask on the show, if you could be a member of the Joe or Cobra team, what would you be? What would your specialty be? And what's your code name?
Interesting.
So have you given any thought to this?
Well, we did a bunch of psychological testing, believe it or not, when we went on the race. We had to.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the doctor referred to me as like an evil genius in budding. So, so there's a story behind that. But I think I'll pick Cobra.
Okay.
And I think instead of being a instead of being a corporate lawyer, I'll be Cobra lawyer.
Cobra lawyer.
Cobra lawyer. I think that's it. I think that's my name.
You'd be a lawyer for Cobra.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got to have like fronts around the planet, right? Yeah. Where they keep their money and stuff like that.
Do you remember the Tomax and Zaymot, the two twins?
Yeah.
Yeah, they ran extensive enterprises.
Okay.
They were all lawyers. Like there was a huge. They're not on this show anymore. They because again they weren't for sale.
Right. But
in the previous seasons, they would have been all over these games.
Well, they can get rid of them and use me.
So you're and your name is Cobra Lawyer.
Let's come up with something better. But I need your help.
Something like Tort. Or what's your favorite filing? Like what kind of thing do you like to do?
Tort is pretty good. I guess you can't just call me Cobra Dershowitz.
Tort Viper Dershowitz. How about Tort Viper?
Tort Viper.
Or is that
instead of a pit viper? Tort Viper.
Yeah. Because like if you were an alley, like the alley vipers, they attack. There's the city specialists.
Tort Viper's no better or worse than anything else.
Yeah. Well, what is a tort exactly?
A tort is a personal wrong against somebody. So I guess you've got a lot of cobras going out there committing torts, so it makes sense.
I think that makes sense. I think you're Tort Viper. You're the Cobra lawyer.
I like it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, my gosh. So, Rob, that was the episode. What did you think of it?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really did. I will say that the ones that I remember seeing were either earlier or later and were a little bit better produced.
Yeah.
And a little bit better, period. But no, I enjoyed the silly moments. I know that you, as a true fan, cringe a little bit. But in the Mystery Science Theater 3000 of it all,
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm really happy to have you. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for going in depth on the Amazing Race.
Dude, I was happy to.
It was so good, man.
I got hours to tell you on that. So we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, I would love it. So remember, check out Rob. He's on Twitter at Rob Frisbee, Instagram at Rob Frisbee29. Tort Viper.
Tort Viper.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Joe and Joe family, my friend.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be
in
the family.
Well, now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.